The forest shook violently. A trail of fire split the sky as a metal object screamed through the clouds. Trees bent from the heat and shock waves. Birds and beasts ran in panic. The villagers on the outer edge of the Yaru border watched the sky burn. Something had fallen. Something not from their world. She saw it first. Kailari, the blade guardian of Clan Drexa, stood on a high stone ledge, her sharp blue eyes scanning the distance. Her silver tail twitched. Her claws tapped against the stone. The smell of burning metal reached her before the wind did. She had fought many enemies, but nothing smelled like this before. She didn't wait. With a soft growl, she leapt down from the ledge and sprinted into the jungle. Her movements were swift and silent. Branches moved out of her way. Animals hid. The world respected her presence. She wasn't just a warrior. She was death to her enemies. But what she found at the crash site was not an enemy. The wreckage was, deep in a clearing. Fire crackled across blackened vines. Broken metal pieces lay everywhere. At the center was the ship's core, a small, strange pod cracked open from one side. And beside it, a body. Still, bloodied, breathing. It was not Drexen. It was not from any known world she had seen in the war scrolls. It was human. He looked fragile. His skin was pale. He had no fur, no scales, no armor. Just burnt clothes and strange boots. His chest rose and fell slowly, painfully. One leg was twisted badly. There were cuts along his side. His face was calm, as if he had accepted death. Kailari raised her sword. She should have ended him. This was her territory. No outsider was allowed to live after crossing the sacred boundary. It was the law of her clan, especially not during war season, especially not when spies from the northern stars roamed their skies. But something in her paused. He whispered something. His voice was weak, but his tone was not fearful. "Don't take me back." She froze. Back? To where? Who was chasing? Him? And why did he look like he had run from monsters, not caused destruction? Her claws lowered. She wrapped her long cloak around him. It was dangerous, but she didn't care. She lifted him easily onto her shoulder and ran. Her clan would not understand. But she had made a choice. The human had landed in her world. But it felt like fate. Back at the clan's high tower, whispers had already started. Kailari carried the human through the gates with burning eyes. Her warriors followed silently, confused and wary. No outsider had ever stepped into the sacred lands. No one had ever dared. The elders called her immediately, but she didn't bow. I found him alone, half dead. He spoke no threats. He carries no weapon. He is mine now. Her voice was cold. Final. The elders shouted. They reminded her of her duty, of the laws. But she didn't flinch. She had fought for their world more times than they could count. And now, for some reason even she didn't fully understand, she was willing to break every rule. Because when she looked into the human's fading eyes, she didn't see an invader. She saw someone lost, and the feeling deep in her chest told her something else. A threat was coming, bigger than the clan, bigger than their laws. Something had chased him to this world, and she would kill anything that tried to take him away. He woke up to silence. A strange ceiling made of smooth stone curved above him. Blue light glowed gently from the walls. The air was warm and smelled of herbs. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his chest and leg. His body collapsed back onto the soft bed made of woven roots and glowing leaves. Then he heard footsteps. Kailari entered, her tall figure casting a shadow across the small healing chamber. Her silver tail moved behind her with slow grace. She held a bowl of steaming liquid in one hand, and her sword in the other. She always carried it, even here. Her world was not safe. The human blinked at her. She was like nothing he had ever seen. Beautiful, fierce, alien, but somehow not threatening. You're lucky, she said simply. If one of the scouts had found you first, you'd be dead. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. She helped him drink from the bowl, lifting his head gently. The liquid was bitter, but it cleared his thoughts. He looked at her again. Where am I? She didn't answer right away. You're in my world, she said. On Yaru, a place not meant for your kind. He nodded slowly. I didn't mean to crash. I was running, hiding. From who? He hesitated. His mind flashed back to the black-armored soldiers, the fire on his ship, the sound of his captain's last scream. He had barely escaped. Just one pod, just one chance. I don't know who they are, but they killed my crew. They were hunting us. Kaylari's eyes narrowed. She had seen war, too many times, but something in his voice felt different. This wasn't just a soldier escaping battle. This was someone who had survived something much darker. He was quiet for a long time. What's your name? She asked finally. Elias. She nodded. I'm Kaylari, Blade Guardian of Clan Drexa. Elias smiled faintly. Sounds like you're important. I am. They stared at each other for a moment. She didn't smile back, but her eyes softened, just a little. Then she stood. You'll stay here until you can walk. The healers will tend to you, but don't speak to anyone. Don't leave this room. If they find out I'm hiding you, they'll make me choose between you and my place in the clan. You don't have to risk everything, he said. She looked over her shoulder. I already did. As the door closed behind her, Elias felt the weight of her words. She had no reason to protect him. She didn't know him. Her people hated outsiders. And yet she had carried him through burning jungle, stood against her elders, and was now risking exile. For him. Outside, Kaylari didn't speak to anyone. She walked straight to the armory and began sharpening her blade. Her mind spun. She had broken the law. No outsider was allowed sanctuary during wartime. And if the others discovered who Elias was, or who hunted him, they would demand his blood. But Kaylari had seen something in him, not just weakness or fear. She saw a fire, a quiet strength beneath the wounds. He wasn't a warrior, but he had survived something terrible. That meant something. It stirred something old in her, something she thought she had buried after her last war. At that moment, a horn echoed across the valley. 3 sharp notes. A signal. Unwelcome visitors had entered the jungle. Kaylari froze. She ran back to the healer's chambers, her sword drawn. Elias looked up in alarm as she burst in. They're here, she said, breath sharp. Whoever chased you, they found you. He tried to sit up. Then I should leave. I won't bring war to your people. She walked forward and pressed a clawed hand against his shoulder, holding him down gently. You're not going anywhere. You fell into my world. That means you're under my blade now. And in her voice there was no hesitation, just promise. The jungle whispered with movement. Branches shifted where no wind blew. Shadows passed between the trees, silent and fast. Kaylari watched from the stone wall of the outer guard post, her sharp eyes locked on the canopy. Every muscle in her body was tense. The scent was wrong. Not beasts, not clan scouts, outsiders. She had known they would come. The moment she saw the strange mark scorched into Elias's escape pod, she had known someone powerful had sent hunters. Now they were here. And they weren't hiding. One of her scouts approached quietly. 3 figures cloaked. They didn't try to hide their entry, moving straight toward the heartlands, fast. Kaylari's grip tightened around her sword. Send the others to mislead them. Draw them away from the central tower. No one must lead them near the healer's halls. But what are they? Kaylari didn't answer. She wasn't sure herself. She turned and disappeared into the trees. Back at the healer's chamber, Elias sat on the edge of the bed, sweat on his brow. The painkillers had dulled and his legs still throbbed, but he had forced himself to sit upright. He had overheard enough from the guards outside. Someone was coming. For him. Again. He didn't want to run anymore. A young Drexen healer named Suvari entered and frowned. You shouldn't be sitting, you'll damage your leg again. Elias looked at her with a steady gaze. They're coming for me, right? She hesitated. I heard the horn, he said. Kailari doesn't want to say it, but I already know. This isn't just some accident, they're tracking me. Suvari looked at the door nervously, then whispered, She'll protect you. She never breaks her word. Elias nodded. I just don't want her to die doing it. Before Suvari could answer, the door burst open. Kailari entered, armor strapped, eyes sharp. Behind her, the guards sealed the hallway with shields and flame traps. You can stand? She asked. Elias struggled up with effort. Barely. Good, because if they reach this tower, you'll need to run. She tossed him a small black device. He caught it clumsily. What's this? A warp beacon. I stole it from your pod. It might still work. But it's one time only. No direction. It'll shoot you far. Anywhere. Elias looked down at it. And you? Kailari's tail flicked behind her. I stay. No. His voice was low but firm. Kailari's head turned. Slightly. She studied him. I didn't come all this way to be protected while others die for me, Elias said. I may not be a fighter, but I'm not helpless. Kailari's eyes narrowed, but there was something else in them now. Respect. Before she could speak, a loud crash shook the tower. The flames at the hallway door flickered. One of the guards flew back, hitting the stone wall with a broken scream. The door cracked. Kailari stepped forward. Stay behind me. No matter what you see, don't run. Elias gripped the warp beacon. Tightly. He could hear the sound now, something heavy walking closer, not Drexen, not anything natural. His hands shook, then the door shattered. The thing that entered wore armor like black bone. Its helmet was faceless, but red lights glowed where eyes should have been. Long claws stretched from its arms. It didn't walk. It glided. The air grew, cold. Kailari moved like lightning. Her blade flashed, striking sparks against the creature's arm. It didn't flinch. It swung back, claws slicing the air where she had stood a second before. She ducked, rolled, slashed again. Elias watched, frozen. She was faster than anything he had ever seen, but the creature was strong. It didn't fight with rage. It fought with purpose. It was here for him, and it wasn't alone. Two more figures stepped through the smoke behind it. Elias looked down, at the beacon, but Kailari shouted without turning, Don't use it! He stared at her. You're under my blade, she said, and I'm not done protecting what's mine. The hallway turned into a battlefield. Kailari spun and slashed, her twin blades carving through the air with deadly precision. One of the black-armored attackers rushed forward with terrifying speed. Its claws tore through stone like paper. She ducked, spun, and drove her sword deep into its chest. Sparks burst. It screeched, then collapsed in a twitching heap. But the other two moved in behind her. Elias didn't think. He grabbed a fallen shield and threw it. It slammed into one of the creatures, knocking it off balance just long enough for Kailari to turn and slice through its knee joint. The beast dropped with a snarl, hissing steam from its armor. The last one hesitated. Kailari stood between Elias and the creature. Her breathing was heavy, but her stance never broke. The enemy tilted its head. It scanned Elias carefully, as if confirming something. Then it activated a signal device on its wrist. A loud pulse echoed through the tower. Kailari's ears twitched. That was a mark. What does that mean? Elias asked. They've confirmed your location. More are coming. She ran to him and pressed a blade into his hand. I don't care if you've never used one. You'll keep this with you now. He gripped it, unsure, but nodded. Outside, alarms began to ring. Scouts shouted in Drexen language. Fires lit the sky. More dropships were coming. Kailari's people weren't ready for this kind of war. Elias turned to her. We have to run. Kailari looked out the window. The sky was no longer peaceful. Black ships like insects buzzed through the clouds. Her clan wouldn't survive a direct attack. The elders would hesitate. The soldiers would be outnumbered. All of it was because of the human now standing beside her. But she didn't regret it. "You're not the cause," she said suddenly. "They would have come either way. You were just the first one they missed." Elias looked at her, confused. "There's more like me?" "Maybe. Maybe not. But I've seen what they are. These are hunters from the void houses. They don't just kill. They erase. Whole species. Entire memories. That's who you escaped from." He swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" Kalari turned, eyes blazing. "We take you to the vaults beneath the mountain. There's a deep tunnel that hasn't been used in ages. No signals work there. If I can get you inside, they can't track you." "And you?" She smiled faintly. "I'll seal the tunnel behind you." "No." His voice cracked. "You already risk too much. Don't throw your life away." She moved close to him. "You don't understand. When I claimed you under my blade, it became a bond. A vow. If I let you die, it shames me for life. You didn't choose that vow because of law," Elias said. "You chose it because of something else." Kailari didn't respond. Instead, she took his hand and pulled him through the collapsing corridor. The walls trembled with every distant explosion. Dust fell from the ceiling. Warriors shouted around them, holding the line as long as they could. Kailari led Elias through a hidden passage behind the healer's wing. A narrow tunnel carved deep through the mountain opened before them. Cool air rushed up. Faint glowing stones lit the way. She handed him a torch carved from Drexen bone and covered in resin. "This leads to the vault gates," she said. "Keep going until you hear the 3-tone bell. That means the gate is near. If you hear anything else, don't stop." "What about you?" "I'll stay until the entrance is buried." Elias grabbed her hand before she turned. "Then I'll wait. At the gate. I won't close it unless you're behind me." She hesitated, then nodded. They held each other's eyes for one last second before parting. Kailari turned to face the growing storm. The jungle behind her burned. The enemy was coming. But she wasn't afraid, because now someone waited for her. Elias ran through the dark tunnel. His torch flickered in the wind, shadows dancing on ancient stone walls. The air was cold, damp, and quiet. Too quiet. Every few steps he glanced behind him, hoping to see Kailari's tall figure appear from the smoke. But she wasn't there yet. He had reached the halfway point. The path curved downward and narrowed. Strange symbols were carved into the walls. Drexen writing, long forgotten. They glowed faintly, reacting to his presence. The tunnel had not been used in decades, maybe centuries. Still, Elias kept moving. He hated leaving her behind. She had saved his life more than once. She had stood between him and death without hesitation. And now she was alone, fighting a force that had destroyed entire human fleets. She was outnumbered, surrounded, but she had made a promise, and she never broke her word. He reached the end of the tunnel. The vault gate stood tall before him, a massive door of stone and crystal, locked by ancient Drexen mechanisms. In the center was a small platform. He stepped onto it. A soft chime echoed. 1 tone, then 2, then 3. The gate responded, glowing lines spreading across its surface. It began to open, but Elias didn't enter. He waited. Back at the entrance, to the tunnel, Kailari stood covered in ash and blood. Her blades dripped with black fluid. The ground behind her was littered with broken metal, crushed armor, and scorched earth. The enemy had sent more. She had killed them all. Her body ached. A long cut ran across her side. One arm was burned. Her tail dragged behind her, injured from the last explosion. But her eyes were still sharp, still burning with purpose. She turned, toward the mountain tunnel. A low growl stopped her. One final hunter stepped from the trees. This one was taller than the rest. Its armor pulsed with red light. Its claws were sharper, its movements slower, but confident. It didn't rush. It knew she was tired. Kalari didn't move. She gripped her sword tighter. Her legs trembled, but she didn't show fear. The hunter spoke. Its voice was not mechanical like the others. It was deep, cold. You protect the prey. Kalari tilted her head slightly. He is not prey. He's under my blade. He holds knowledge that doesn't belong to your kind. We will extract it. Kalari's voice was calm. Then come try. The hunter leapt forward. Kalari met him with a roar, steel flashing in the light of the burning jungle. In the mountain vault, Elias waited anxiously. The gate stood open behind him, glowing softly. Minutes passed. His heart pounded. He kept looking down the tunnel, hoping to see her shadow. Nothing. Then he heard it. Footsteps. He raised the torch. A tall shape moved through the darkness. It was her, barely standing, covered in blood and smoke, but alive. Kalari limped into the chamber, her sword still in hand. One side of her armor was shattered. Her breathing was heavy, but her eyes met his, and she gave a small nod. I said I'd be right behind you. Elias rushed forward and caught her before she fell. You're hurt. I've been worse, she muttered. You didn't close the gate. I told you I wouldn't. She looked at the open doorway behind them, then slowly leaned against him. You're stubborn. I learned from the best. They stepped together into the vault. As soon as they crossed the gate, it began to close behind them, sealing with a loud hum. The stone shifted back into place, hiding them from the world above. Inside, soft lights came alive. Shelves of forgotten artifacts. Scrolls older than the stars. Quiet. Safe. Elias helped her to the center, where she collapsed onto a resting platform. You saved me, he said softly. Kalari closed her eyes. No. You gave me something to fight for. Inside the mountain vault, time moved slower. The air was warmer here. The energy from the old Drexan stones filled the space with a soft hum. Light pulsed from ancient crystals on the walls and floor. Elias sat beside Kalari as she rested, her wounds freshly bandaged with cloth from his emergency kit and herbal paste from her own pouch. She hadn't spoken much since they sealed the vault door. She didn't need to. Her breathing was steady now. Her injuries were painful but not deadly. She had survived. Again, because of him. And he stayed by her side, refusing to move more than a few steps away. You should sleep, she whispered. Elias shook his head. You nearly died. I'll sleep after you do. Kalari gave a faint, tired smile. Human loyalty is strange. Elias looked around the chamber. The place felt like a library and temple combined. The walls were filled with carvings and locked containers. Many glowed as if aware of their presence. Some opened slowly when they passed, revealing old weapons, scrolls, and devices Elias couldn't understand. What is this place? He asked. Kalari sat up slowly, wincing. This is the oldest place in my world. The core of the Drexan memory. We store what we cannot lose. Weapons, knowledge, secrets, even from your people, especially from them. Elias looked at her, surprised. There were wars before your kind even reached the stars. Not every Drexan was loyal to peace. Some built weapons that could erase whole skies. Some forged creatures that fed on mines. When the clans united, we buried the past here, sealed it, swore never to use it again. Elias ran his fingers along one of the glowing containers. But now the enemy is here. Yes. He turned back to her. Then maybe it's time to open what was sealed. Kalari studied him. His voice was steady, but his eyes were tired. He wasn't a soldier, not a warrior. But he had survived horrors and still stood tall, still cared, still protected her when others would run. He was different. She stood and walked toward one of the oldest vaults near the center. The lock responded to her touch. Inside was a single item, a small orb with a pulsing blue light. She picked it up carefully and returned to Elias. This is called the Thought Fire. It connects to the Drexan bloodline. It can unlock any weapon in this vault, but it will burn the user's mind if their will is weak. Sounds dangerous. It is. He looked at her. Are you going to use it? She shook her head. Not yet, but I want you to know it exists, in case I fall. Elias frowned. Don't say that. Kailari gently pressed the orb into his hands. You may not be Drexen, but you have something stronger. You're human. You adapt. You survive. You carry pain without turning cruel. If anyone can make a choice in this vault without becoming a monster, it's you. He stared at the orb, then at her. Do you trust me that much? I fought for my people for years, but I never gave my trust to anyone who didn't earn it. They stood in silence for a moment, the hum of the vault surrounding them. Then a low rumble echoed through the floor. Elias looked up. What was that? Kailari's face hardened. They're trying to break through the mountain. How? Void tech. They're not giving up. Elias nodded. Then neither are we. She stepped forward and gently touched her forehead to his. You fell into my world, and I swore to protect you. But now, I think you're part of it. He didn't move, didn't speak, but something warm settled in his chest. They were no longer just survivor and protector. They were something more. The mountain groaned under pressure. Dust fell from the ceiling of the vault as another deep tremor shook the stone beneath their feet. Somewhere above, something powerful was drilling through layers of ancient rock. Not natural, not Drexen. The enemy had brought void tech, machines that could break through anything. Kailari stood at the center of the chamber, her eyes fixed on the old structure. She had always believed this vault was untouchable, but the hunters were proving her wrong. They won't stop, Elias said quietly. No, she replied. They're not just after you anymore. They want what's in here. Elias looked around the room. The weapons, the sealed memory stones, the forbidden things her people had buried and promised never to use again. The vault wasn't just a hiding place now, it was a target. Then we destroy it, he said. Kailari turned to him surprised. You want to destroy Drexen memory?
No. I want to make sure they don't get it. If they reach this place, they'll use everything in here. Not just against your world, but maybe mine too. She studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. You speak like a soldier now. I'm
not a soldier, he said, gripping the Thoughtfire orb in his hand. But I've seen what happens when people wait too long to act. They worked quickly. Kailari opened the main console of the vault. She placed her hand against the crystal core and whispered an old Drexen code. The chamber lights shifted from blue to red. A countdown began. When the core reaches 0, she said, everything in this chamber will burn. Memory, metal, flesh, all of it. Elias looked at her. That includes us. She nodded. That's why we have to reach the emergency escape shaft. They grabbed what little they could carry. Kailari strapped an ancient blade to her back, one sealed for generations. Elias kept the Thoughtfire close, unsure why, but feeling like it mattered. Just as they reached the tunnel leading out, a loud blast echoed behind them. The vault gate shattered. The enemy was inside. Kailari shoved Elias forward. Go. The tunnel was narrow. Carved ages ago meant only for small transport. But it still led upward, out of the vault, toward the surface. As they ran, Kailari placed charge bombs on the walls, sealing the path behind them one by one. But one hunter was faster. It burst through the smoke, metal claws reaching for Elias. Kailari turned and met it mid-strike. Their blades clashed in a shower of sparks. She fought with everything left in her, each movement precise, each swing deadly. The creature was stronger, but she was faster, and she had something it didn't, someone to protect. Elias turned back, watching her fight. His heart pounded as he saw her stumble for a second, then recover. She was hurt, bleeding again, but she didn't stop. Another tremor shook the tunnel. The countdown had reached its final phase. Kailari, Elias shouted. She delivered one final strike, slicing through the hunter's core. It dropped with a hiss of steam. She turned and ran, limping badly, her face pale from pain. They reached the surface hatch. Elias slammed the switch. A beam of light shot through the rocks as the hatch opened, revealing a misty ridge high above the jungle. Clouds surrounded them. Wind blew across their faces. Kalari collapsed beside him. Behind them, deep inside the mountain, a brilliant light began to glow, then silence. Then a pulse of blue fire erupted from the tunnels below. The mountain shook, the sky cracked with thunder, and everything behind them, the vault, the weapons, the memories, was gone. Elias helped Kalari sit up. "It's over," he said. She looked at the glowing horizon. "No," she whispered. "It's just beginning." They had survived. But now the enemy knew something more dangerous than a vault remained alive. Hope. The wind howled across the mountain ridge. Kalari sat on a flat stone, her blade resting beside her. Her body ached with every breath. The explosion had sealed the vault, wiped out the last of the hunters, and buried centuries of forbidden power. She had done what no warrior in her clan had ever dared. She had burned their history to protect a human. Elias stood nearby, staring at the jungle stretching far below. Smoke still curled upward from the valley. But there were no more ships in the sky, no sounds of metal. The invaders were gone, for now. "Any chance they come back?" he asked. Kalari nodded. "Always. If not for you, then for something else." He turned toward her. "Then we should go, before the rest of your people find us." She didn't answer at first. Her eyes were on the horizon. Then softly she said, "You saved me." Elias blinked. "You're the one who fought off the monsters." She shook her head. "I meant something deeper. You gave me reason. When I thought I was only a blade, you reminded me I was also a choice." He sat beside her. "You're more than that. You're a reason others keep fighting." They sat in silence for a while. The sky slowly brightened with morning light. Sunbeams touched the treetops, and mist rolled off the leaves like gentle breath. Despite everything, the world still turned. Elias looked down at the Thoughtfire orb, now dim and silent in his hands. "What do I do with this?" Kalari took it from him and held it carefully. "Hide it, far away, where no one will find it unless they need it for something good." He nodded. "I'll carry it," he said. "Not because it's powerful, but because it reminds me what should never be used without heart." Kalari stood slowly but firmly. Her strength was returning, though her steps were not as smooth as before. Scars marked her body now, fresh ones, but she wore them like armor. "What happens now?" Elias asked. She looked at him. "You can stay, or go. My clan may never welcome you, but my blade is yours. Always." He looked at her with a quiet smile. "You saved me when you had every reason not to. I don't have a home to go back to. So if I stay, I won't hide behind you." She stepped closer. "If you stay, you'll be hunted. Then let them hunt." He extended his hand. Kalari took it. Together, they walked down the mountain path. Through trees and light, into a new future neither of them had chosen, but one they were now building side by side. News of the vault's destruction spread across the Drexen lands. Some called it betrayal, others called it sacrifice. But no one could deny one truth. A human had entered their world, and he hadn't broken it. He had changed it. Elias would never be part of any ancient bloodline. But legends grew around him. The stranger who walked beside the Blade Guardian. The man who helped bury power instead of stealing it. The one who gave her something no sword ever had, a reason to hope again. Kalari's clan eventually rebuilt. New laws were written, old wounds reopened, then healed. And deep in the hills, far beyond the reach of warships and empires, a home was carved into the land, where a human and a warrior lived not as protector and protected but as equals, and anyone who came looking to take him again never returned.